Alright guys, we're going to do some discrete math practice. Okay, so the first one says, given statements P and Q, which of the following is the truth table for the statement Q if and only if not P and Q? Alright, so I'm going to put this to the side, and I'm going to make this truth table. So it says Q if and only if not P and Q. Alright, so that's what it gives us. So I'm just going to make a table here. Alright, so we'll have, up here we'll have P, Q, P and Q, not P and Q, and then Q if and only if, not P and Q. Alright, so we know that P's are true, true, false, false. And Q's are true, false, true, false. So P and Q would be true, false, false, and false. Because anytime it's an and statement, there has to be all truths. If there's a false anywhere in it at all, it is false. Okay, so then not P and Q means we're just going to take the exact opposite of that. So it's just going to be false, true, true, true. So then if we go on to this statement, we're saying Q if and only if, not P and Q. So we're looking at this. So Q if and only if this. So true if and only if false is false. False if and only if true is false. True if and only if true is true. And false if and only if true is false. So if we go back to our answers, the answer is D, because that truth table matches the truth table that we have. Okay, so move on to the next one. Alright, so it says, if P then Q is true, which of these is also necessarily true? So if we look at our choices that they give us here, this one is the converse, this one is the inverse, and then this choice C is the contrapositive. So we know that these two are not necessarily true. They can be, but not necessarily. So we'll test those two. And this one looks like possible answer, but we'll also test that. So we're going to look at the statement, all cats are mammals. Alright, so if saying P then Q would be saying if an animal is a cat, then the animal is a mammal. Alright, so if we write the converse of this statement, which would basically be switching it, because instead of saying P then Q, we're going to say Q then P. So the converse would read, if an animal is a mammal, then the animal is a cat. Which is not necessarily true, because it's saying that if it's a mammal, then it's a cat, but there's other animals that are mammals that are not cats. So then if we look at the inverse of it, so choice B is what we're going to look at. So it's saying if an animal is not a cat, then the animal is not a mammal. And that's also not true, because it says if an animal is not a cat, then the animal is not a mammal. But then it goes back to what we just said, because there can be things that are mammals that are not cats. So then if we look at the contrapositive of it, it would say if an animal is not a mammal, then the animal is not a cat. And this is true because there are not any cats which are not mammals. So then that tells us that our answer would be C, which is the contrapositive of the statement. Alright, so we move on to our last one. It says a teacher wishes to divide her class of 20 students into 4 groups, each of which will have 3 boys and 2 girls. How many possible groups can she form? So if each of the 4 groups in the class of 20 will contain 3 boys and 2 girls, there has to be 12 boys and 8 girls in the class. So 12 boys and 8 girls in the class. The number of boys the teacher can select 3 boys from a group of 12 boys is 12, choose 3. You can do this on your calculator, but if we go back to the formula that we know, it would be saying 12 factorial over 3 factorial times 12 minus 3 factorial, which is basically saying 12 factorial over 3 factorial times 9 factorial. So then, like I said, you can use your calculator, or if you do it by hand, that's saying 12 factorial times, or I'm sorry, not 12 factorial, that's saying 12 times 11 times 10 times 9 factorial, all over 3 factorial times 9 factorial, which if we simplify that is 12 times 11 times 10 all over 3 times 2 times 1, which if you multiply that is equal to 220. And the number of ways that she can select 2 girls from the number of ways she can select 2 girls from a group of 8 girls is 8, choose 2. So then if we do the same thing from our formula, then it becomes 8 factorial over 2 factorial times 8 minus 2 factorial, which is equal to 8 factorial over 2 factorial times 6 factorial, which if you break that down is 8 times 7 times 6 factorial, all over 2 factorial times 6 factorial, which is 8 times 7 over 2 times 1, which is 28. Since each combination of boys can be paired with each combination of girls, the number of group combinations would be 220 times 28, which is equal to 6,160. So our answer would be B.